Now joining me, he played in the NHL from 1982 to 1995 with the New York Rangers, Buffalo Sabres, and Florida Panthers, as well as he played in Quebec. And now he is the play-by-play voice on Sports Radio 560 WQAM with the Florida Panthers, and that's the great Randy Moller. Randy, Zach Gelb here, Shovio.com. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing this evening?
Oh, great to be on the show.
Well, thank you for coming on, and I'm an avid fan of your work. Every time I'm down in Florida visiting my good pal Sid Rosenberg, I always find a way to catch a Florida Panthers hockey game, listen to you on the radio, and I'm just in love with your calls. It's like the equivalent to John Sterling, the play-by-play voice of the Yankees, except you're on steroids. I guess you watch a lot of movies. Your stuff is great.
Yeah, well, pop culture is a big interest of mine, and I like to enjoy myself on my broadcast, and I think that shows through my broadcast. It's a game, and I think the fans, you have to entertain the fans, and I try to do my best. It's the love of my life. I wouldn't want to do anything else but broadcast games, and I hope very soon that I'll be broadcasting playoff games for the Florida Panthers.
Well, let's go back to Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals, the Bruins versus the Canucks, and Rome had a brutal and a blatant hit on Horton. Do you believe the suspension justifies the crime?
I'm gonna hold comment. I'm not surprised. I'm not upset. I'm not happy. It's just I understand and accept what the league's decision was. 4 games. The bottom line is it's very unfortunate, because the series, which has been fantastic, has lost 2 great players. In Rome, the defenseman, and of course Nathan Horton for the Buffalo Sabres. That's what the tragedy in all of this is. 2 players will be robbed of participating anymore in this playoff series, and the fans will be robbed of their great performances as well. It's just an unfortunate incident in my book. I understand that it's a physical game, and I believe that is a very fine line between a great big hit, and a hit that will injure someone, especially a concussion.
Now, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, and you don't see a lot of people debating. A lot of people are saying, you know what, the hit was wrong. The guy suffered a concussion. It was a pretty bad hit. But a lot of people are going out there saying, well, he should have, they're fine with him getting 4 games. Maybe he should have got 2. Maybe he should have got 1. Maybe even more than 4. And it's an ambiguous case. But do you believe that is a reason why fans don't know how many games he should have got? Because the NHL is very inconsistent when dealing out these kinds of suspensions?
Well, I believe that this is just my opinion. I believe that if the NHL handed either no suspension or just 1 or possibly 2 game suspension, the league would be criticized about not doing enough and handing out enough punishment after the NHL has come out and stated that they are going to take this very seriously. Hits to the head. 4 games, obviously, I think protects them from that. It's a very difficult ruling to call, and there's a lot of emotion in this series between the Bruins and the Canucks, and I think it would be a very difficult decision on the amount if there's a suspension and how long the suspension for anyone involved, even the fans. I think it's been all over the map. Some fans think that they didn't warrant any suspension because they felt that Nathan Horton had his head down. Some thought that the suspension was not enough, and it should have been more severe and run into next year. Everybody has their opinion. Like I mentioned, I accept the NHL's decision. It's a difficult one. Hopefully Nathan Horton will recuperate, and he'll be back to 100%. And we can just move past this horrific incident.
Now let's take you back to Game 2 here, where Burroughs had the finger bite. If that was to happen and you were a Boston Bruins player, how would you have retaliated?
I didn't know cannibalism was allowed in the National Hockey League. That's been the saying that's going around. But obviously, there was no suspension, and they didn't warrant the suspension in their minds because there wasn't proof that a bite or an infraction took place. I just laugh. I think it is kind of funny. That's kind of old-time hockey. This kind of stuff used to happen all the time. I've been bit more than once in my playing career, and I think I handed out a few bites in my career as well. So it gets a lot of publicity right now, and of course the internet and Twitter drives a lot of that, which makes it fun and makes it interesting. But I got a chuckle out of it. Thank God that nobody was injured on that play.
Now, you played with a numerous amount of teams over the course of your NHL career. Let's just say if someone was to bite Randy Moller in the fingers, which one of the players on your team would have been right by your side punching the other guy in the face?
Well, I would hope that anybody that was on the ice would come to my rescue. But hopefully I would be able to get the first punch in myself if I was able to, if I wasn't tied up. But there's no really need for that. I mean, the game is physical enough. Like I said, this is the best sport in the world. The reason it's so popular is because it's so intense, and the physical contact that's in the game. The players are so much bigger nowadays. The game is so much faster that, unfortunately, serious injuries have happened and will continue to happen. I believe even though the NHL has made great strides in trying to curb the hits to the head and the seriousness of hits from behind that will cause serious damage to the players. Unfortunately, it's still going to happen, but I hope that it's very far between incidents.
We're talking to Randy Moller, and Randy, let's talk about the player that did the finger biting. In Game 2, he came out, he had 3 points, 2 goals, 1 assist, but then in Game 3, he was virtually nowhere to be found with 0 points. What do you think the Bruins did different defensively compared to Game 2 and 3?
Well, I think that the Bruins came out and established themselves very physically in the last game, in Game 3. The Vancouver Canucks could not counterattack. Their offense was off-kilter. And then I think after the Nathan Horton hit, I think that only inspired the Bruins to concentrate and to execute, and boy, did they execute. I look for the Vancouver Canucks to bounce back tonight in the game in this Game 4. I believe that it's up to now the Boston Bruins. The game is in their hands to try and even this series. They know that the Canucks will come back. They know they'll have a better effort, and they'll execute a lot better. So it's up to the Bruins to keep that intensity. They were, to the man, they were much more physical, much more into it. And it showed, and obviously Thomas in goal was a big reason why, as well as making those great saves early on in the first period.
How does a player, because you played in the National Hockey League for a long time, how does a player move on past Game 3 with the Canucks on that standpoint? Because these players got to get up and going, because if the Canucks don't win tonight, it will be squared right up at 2-2.
That's the good thing, is they're right back at it. Like I used to say, all it takes is a few cold beers, a good meal, a good sleep, and you just turn the page and you get ready for the next game. I don't think there'll be much residue left over in the Canucks' mind. They've been here before. They've had their ups and downs throughout the last number of years in the playoffs. You can't dwell on a bad loss. Roberto Luongo will bounce back, and I think the game will be either won or lost for the Boston Bruins in the first 10 or 15 minutes of this game.
We're talking to Randy Moller, the play-by-play voice of the Florida Hockey Panthers on Sports Radio 560 WQAM and former NHL player. And Randy, in Games 1 and 2, the Boston Bruins offense was dreadful. They come out in Game 3. How do the Bruins generate their offense on more of a consistent basis?
Well, I think they just won all the battles, all the small battles on the wall. I think they bottled up the Vancouver Canucks in Game 3. The Canucks, with the Sedin brothers, they shut them down in Game 3. They're going to have to do the same thing. I mean, the Boston Bruins have, in my opinion, do not have the same offensive capabilities as the Vancouver Canucks. And now, strikingly enough, that without Nathan Horton, it's going to be a bigger challenge. They have to outwork the opposition. They have to outbattle the opposition. Their positioning defensively has to be pretty well perfect. And if the Boston, I said it before the season or before the series, if the Boston Bruins win the Stanley Cup, Tim Thomas will be the playoff MVP.
Talking about Tim Thomas, break down the goalie matchup for me. It's been great so far, besides Game 3, but Thomas and Luongo have really bought their best effort.
Yeah, we're class goaltenders. You're not going to see too many off nights from these true professionals. They're all-stars. They're world-class players. They prepare the right way. I think the fans have been thrilled by the performance. Thomas was outstanding in Game 3. Luongo was almost unconscionable in Game 1 and Game 2. I expect one out of two or even both to have an outstanding game tonight. And that's the beauty of the game of hockey as well. You know, it's so easy to criticize the Bruins for only scoring a couple of goals the first two games of this series, but give credit where credit is due. Roberto Luongo made some saves that normally any other goaltender in the world would have let in. So, great goaltending. It's been a physical series. Unfortunately, we got a bit of a black eye in the Horton incident with him getting injured. But I think the NHL, and if everybody can just turn the page and look past, we still have a lot of great hockey left in this series. And by no means is it over yet.
A very pivotal game tonight. You have Game 4. The Canucks are up 2-1. Who do you think will win this game tonight, and why do you think they'll win?
I think the Vancouver Canucks will probably bounce back and win this game, unfortunately. It's not that I'm rooting for the Bruins or the Canucks. I'm not rooting for either one. I think, though, that the Vancouver Canucks have a little bit better talent. I think the Bruins played a lot of the game the other night on emotion and adrenaline and the great goaltending to Thomas. It'll be a great matchup, but I have to give the edge to the Vancouver Canucks. I said the Canucks would win in 6, and I'll hold to that.
We're talking to Randy Moller. And Randy, a few more questions right before we let you go. Winnipeg gets their team back. They sold 13,000 season tickets within, I think, 30 minutes. That's an outrageous rate, and it's great for the NHL. Why would they ever even move a team from Winnipeg if there's such a demand for it where they live?
Well, the first time 15 years ago, the business model with the Winnipeg Jets did not work. Their building was inadequate. They didn't have the ability to raise the ancillary revenues that you need with suites and with corporate sponsorships and different ways of special clubs, high-end private clubs. They couldn't compete. They couldn't generate enough revenue in order to compete. It was the same thing with the Quebec Nordiques. That's the reason they were sold. Now they have a new building, even though it's only 15,000 people. But the business model that they've created and presented to the NHL, I think overwhelmingly proves that they're able to not only join the league and participate in the league, but I think they have a chance to thrive in the league. Canada is a very passionate country for the game of hockey, and I believe that you could put 5 other teams in the country of Canada and they would succeed. The interest is there. I'm not surprised they sold their season tickets. I'm looking forward to going there 3 times this year as a member of the Panthers because Winnipeg will be in the Southeast Division because I know that every game will be an event there. Not only the city, but the province it'll be like NFL Sunday, every home game for the Winnipeg Jets, and I look forward to it. The atmosphere will be outstanding. And that's what it's all about.
Do you ever get apprehensive that possibly Florida may move? Because the fans down there, I know that the Florida Panthers do get some fans, but they're more interested in football. They're more interested in baseball. Do you ever think that the Florida Panthers are ever in danger of moving?
No, not at all. The business model, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but the Panthers they're well positioned in South Florida. The building that they control, the parking, the concessions, everything, yes. They need to draw more fans. They will with the success of the team. Dale Talon has a blueprint. This team is on the up. They have a lot of young players that they've drafted. They've got 7 picks in the first 3 rounds this June's amateur draft again. They will get back to the playoffs sooner than later. To answer your question, no. The strong ownership, the passionate ownership, the business model that they work under, they will succeed. And they're not going anywhere, I can tell you that.
Now, I was a big Peter DeBoer fan, and I understand why he was let go, and that was because the team didn't win enough games, and they didn't get into the playoffs and all that stuff, and he was also great with the media and DeBoer. But what are your thoughts on the new head coach of the Florida Hockey Panthers?
I like Kevin Dineen. I played with him. I played against him my whole career. I think he's had great success in the minors over the last 6 years. He has produced the last 3 AHL Rookie of the Years in the with the Portland team that he had coached. He's had success, good communicator. I think the chemistry between Kevin Dineen and the general manager, Dale Talon, will be strong, and that's what's needed as the Panthers come out with a young team and try to grow and model behind some of the teams in the past few years, like the LA Kings, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Washington Capitals, the Pittsburgh Penguins. They all did the same. They all bottomed out. They all gathered in their draft picks. They were able to pick quality players and grow and develop their players. And I think Kevin Dineen will be the perfect coach to lead them through this journey. Hopefully they'll be in the playoffs sooner than later, but I know the blueprint and the plan that they have for this hockey club is the right way to go. There's no shortcuts in this league.
Zach Gelb here on Shovio.com from the Peerless Boiler Studios. Peerless builds America's best boilers, as we're talking to one of the NHL's finest in Randy Moller, play-by-play voice for the Florida Panthers and former NHL player. And Randy, you did play in New York, and you played with the Rangers, and I understand that the Islanders could possibly be moving if they don't get this stadium approved. With that said, being played in New York and being around this fan base, how vital do you think for the NHL success that they keep all these 3 teams in the Devils, the Islanders, and the Rangers?
Yeah, I got my fingers crossed. I hope that they're able to build a new facility. Unfortunately, and everybody agrees, the building on Long Island is not adequate, and something has to be done. And I hope that the partnership between the ownership of the Islanders and the county and everyone involved, the government and that they can come to a positive conclusion and build a building there that will ensure the health of the Islanders. You never want to see a team leave. I was disappointed that Atlanta had to leave. The Thrashers had to leave Atlanta. Hopefully, within the next year or so, we'll hear some good news coming out of Long Island that they'll be getting a new building. It's much needed, and everybody. There's the one good thing about this situation on Long Island is everybody agrees that a new building must be built. And they just got to decide now who's going to build it. And I have all the confidence in the NHL and Mr. Wang that owns the Islanders that they'll get something done. Cooler heads will prevail. The team is too important to the community, to the county of Nassau. They'll get it done, and I hope it's sooner than later.
Randy, thanks so much for the time. I appreciate it. Hope to do it again soon.
You can call me anytime. I love being on your show. Thanks.